Welcome to Attitude of Altitude podcast presented by Planet of One. This podcast is designed to inspire change in people to become the best versions of themselves and live their best lives. We share stories of struggle and success to encourage and empower listeners to be bold, take action, and be the change we desire to see in this world. We are all part of this planet. We are all a planet of one. Know that your attitude determines your altitude in life. Welcome to the podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Attitude of Altitude. I am very thrilled to have with us Miss Melia today. Melia is a friend of mine, but more than that, she is a leader in an industry that is generally a very rough industry for some people, but she has made a very good living off of being in this industry. But she started off in a background where she made the decision to climb out of it. And then she's taken everything she's learned through the years and has put a lot of her effort into now building an orphanage also. So I really would love to introduce my friend Melia. Hi, Kim. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm so glad to see you.
Thank you.
I would love for you to allow the audience and the listeners to learn a little bit about your background, where you grew up, how you came about, and then we'll go into other areas as where you are today. But let us know where you came from.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you first of all for having me on. It's so awesome to be on. We're definitely friends, and we met through a business, so it's always a pleasure to be reconnected and connected, right? Especially during these interesting times that we're having. But for me, I grew up in a household. First of all, when I was first growing up from age 0 to 3, I didn't have the best household to grow up in. My father, my biological father, was abusive, unfortunately, to mostly my brothers and my mother, and she left when I was 3. And that was a great thing, a good decision for her. And that's when I met who I call my real dad, Tom, who was really an angel because he took on 3 kids under the age of 6 or actually 9, something like that. Anyways, and he went from having a Corvette to having a shaggin' wagon, for those of you who remember what a shaggin' wagon is. But they were together for just over 10 years, and then they split up when I was 13, which means I became a rebel instantly. And it wasn't so good because I didn't want to have a broken up family. I loved my mom and I loved my dad, and I had to pick who to live with. So I lived with my mom. I really resented her. I still apologize for all the things I said to her and did to her during those times. And so with my mom, though, when I did live with her, she broke her back. And this was a defining moment for me because when she broke her back, she had to lay down. She had to be on her back literally for a month. At the age of about 14 years old, I had to take care of the bills. I had to learn how to go to the bank, do the grocery shopping, and do everything for the house. And I had an older brother that was 2 years older than me, and he didn't help out all that much. I was the woman of the house. And so I say that because my other brother went with my father, Tom, when we split up, and he came to visit us. And he said, "Where's all the food?" And we didn't have a lot of food. Mom wasn't working. We weren't working. We were in school. So we ended up on welfare and food stamps. And that wasn't a really fun time when you're a teenager to end up on welfare and food stamps at all, especially when your own brother comes to visit and says, well, okay, there's no food in the house. Literally, I mean, he was looking through the cupboards. And of course, to me, there's food, right? If there's pasta and tomato sauce, you got food. But he says, "Where's all the food?" And I said, "Well, I have to go get the food stamps and get the welfare check, and then I can go get our food." And he said, "Well, you definitely look like you're the one on welfare and food stamps, so you go get it. I'll wait here." I said a lot of choice words to my brother, and he said a lot of choice words back to me. And it wasn't a very good argument or discussion. And I just remember, though, literally at that age, feeling this big from my own family member. And I thought, I will never let my mom be in this position, my brother be in this position. And I thought to myself, I'll get my other brother back at some point. But I just didn't want to feel that low. I didn't want anybody to make me feel that low. And it just thought it was really, really rude. And so I just remembered it, right? So fast forward. So then I moved in with my father and I graduated from high school. I was actually the first one to graduate from high school. My mom now has her GED. She actually went and did a lot of community college and got her degree and stuff after that. But I then basically graduated from high school, went straight into corporate, and I realized, and I'm Canadian, that's where I was born. And I realized that literally within just a couple of weeks, like, oh my God, what am I doing in corporate? I do not belong here. And the reason why I think I had that belief was because I actually dabbled in some modeling. So then I started to understand what it was like to be self-employed and making $125 an hour as a hand model versus going to work and making, $2,300 in a month made me see like, well, what am I really doing here? And I didn't want to be a model. So I was looking for something else. And that's sort of where I came into my career. And I think one of the reasons why it could be, and I was able to be successful though, in anything not everything I've done, but in a lot of things I've done is because my past of where people made fun of me or where I felt unworthy, I didn't deserve it. I wasn't confident, all those things. I remembered the feelings of those things that people made me feel, but I let that be my fuel to be successful in the different areas of my life that I wanted to. So I think a lot of people had people who made fun of them, teachers, parents, siblings. You can't do this. You're not worthy. You're ugly. You're stupid. I mean, we have people say this to us all the time, and ourselves probably more than anybody. But when we don't let that in and we don't believe that, or we change that, which it's not that simple, but it's doable, right? It's just consistency of doing that. So, but long story short, that's really my past. And then I became an entrepreneur, and that's pretty much where I'm at. So I'm not sure if you want me to get into that. So I'll wait for your next question.
We will actually, but you touched on something very key. A lot of people that go through something traumatic or negative in their life, they spin on it for a while. Sometimes they never come out of it, and they could be well into their 40s, 50s, 60s, and so on, and they're still spinning on something that occurred when they were younger. What allowed you to pay attention and to allow that to fuel you without being bitter, but actually getting better?
That's great. I've got this, I'm going to have to read this now that you said that. I won't read it right now, but I have this thing that I used to read every single day, and I think I'm going to bring it back out. I'll read it every single day, and I'll read that in a second. But a couple things happen. I mean, listen, life happens to all of us. And to be honest with you, I won't get into the gritty details, but my mother had a great boyfriend. I actually introduced her. I was in karate. He was a black belt. Long story short, they got together, and he passed away, and he actually committed suicide. I found his body at the age of 22 years old, and that changed my life. And the reason why I say this is because I went to counseling. So that situation ended up me going to counseling for a complete year, at least once or twice a week. And it was one of the hardest things I ever did. I hated it. Her name was Mary Poppy. Now, for those of you who remember Mary Poppins, I was like, I felt like that's what it was. She was my Mary Poppins, Mary Poppy, right? But she was an amazing counselor. I was blessed because I know many people who go to a counselor don't connect, right? But I went through that process, Rima, and she helped me realize all these things that happened to me and how I could make that into something more positive. And I don't remember all the details that she told me, but I just remember, there was a couple tragedies in my life that I remembered. But when I went for counseling finally, and I could see myself turning, because it was very devastating. I was in a very dark spot. And I think if I didn't get help, whatever that help looks like for anybody else, but for me, it was counseling. If I didn't get help, I don't think I would have gone down the right road, because it was pretty dark. And she helped me go through a lot of that stuff from the past and what was going on and things like that. And so I believe that was one of my really big things where I can say to people, counselors are good. You just have to find the one that works for you, or whatever that, social worker, doesn't matter what the word is that you want to use, but somebody to talk to, somebody that you can release stuff to, and then they can help you. Really just fueled me because I felt like somebody cared. I felt like somebody was listening. Somebody understood me. Somebody had my back. And it wasn't even a family member. It wasn't a friend. It was somebody who really wanted to walk me through this process.
I love that you're saying these things, because a lot of the qualities you just described are the qualities that I know of you in your current industry and what draws a lot of people to you. So take us through the journey of you coming into your current position, into your current job, and how you actually took on this journey? Because a lot of people are presented with opportunities and may not even take the steps to get there.
Sure. Well, and I think, having a mentor, having somebody who is somebody who can really push you, I think a mentor or a workout person, somebody who you're accountability partner. But I was looking for something. Like when I started working for the bank, I knew right away that I did not want to work for corporate. And that doesn't mean like corporate's not for everybody. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And because I'm a little bit of a rebel, I say I'm a rebel with a cause now. And I joined an industry called network marketing, which most people, like you said, have this tainted view of unless they've been successful or know somebody successful. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that at the time, Rima. I mean, when I was introduced, I was just introduced and I was climbing the walls. I was like, you mean I don't have to have a degree? You mean I can work from home? You mean I can have unlimited income? Like, to me, network marketing was meant for Kim. So I joined a company and I wasn't all that successful for the first 9 months. And then that company was acquired by this company called LegalShield. LegalShield is, an amazing company that basically helps represent people who can't afford our current legal system, whether it's in Canada, or United States. And I got passionate about that because I am a person, if I cannot be passionate or on purpose with what I do, I don't do it. Now I know that because I've done my personality test and my career test where it tells you. And now I understood why the bank didn't make sense to me, or why when I worked, for Bell Canada, like why it wasn't that it wasn't even challenging enough. It just wasn't in purpose. Like, what was the purpose of what I was doing? Anybody could do this, And so when I joined a company that to me was equal justice under law is not a reality, and I could be part of a solution of that, that drove me, right? And I also understood that my family needed it. So it drove me for those reasons. But I was scared. I was a new entrepreneur. I mean, are you kidding me? I was 23 years old when I joined the industry. I had no sales experience, no networking background, no real education. But I had a burning desire. I had a burning desire to show Bob, remember Bob, the one that I always call him there's a reason why brother. And then there's my cheerleader brother. So the reason why is the one that I got in an argument with Bob. And I always wanted to prove to him that our family could earn $1 million. We could be very wealthy with the education that we've had and with, just our family. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to join a company with unlimited potential as well. And so I jumped on board. I was scared out of my mind. And I am very happy that I did surround myself. Like I said, you've got to surround yourself with people who actually care and people who want to see you grow. And if you do that, then those days that you're down, besides personal development, right? Those days that you're down, you can call people and say, hey, I'm not feeling like making that phone call, or I feel down because the person told me no, or whatever. I'm doubting myself, and all those things that you say to yourself. When I had somebody, which Rob McKenzie was that person for me, when I first got started, it was just such a blessing because he believed in me before I believed in myself. He really did. And he instilled that in me. And I think we all have issues with believing in ourselves all the time, but he instilled belief in me that I was worthy and that I can be successful. It didn't matter about my background. It didn't matter about where I came from, good or bad or indifferent. So it's truly a blessing to be around people like that. And I continue to surround myself, I always say, with people that have bigger circles of influence, that have bigger goals than me, bigger visions, because it just helps me think bigger as well.
How did you go from being the trainee in a new industry to being the trainer and the leader? What were some of the things that you grabbed on that you go?
Well, I think you have to be a good follower. I think you have to be the follower. Like, you can't just come into an industry or a company and just think that you can take over, even though you might have some good talents and skills. You have to learn what they do. And, so I learned and earned, but I became a good follower. So, I mean, first of all, I had my mentors. I had a couple girls and a couple guys that I followed inside of my company, outside of the company, all over, just looking at some of my inspirations were Jim Rohn. One of my favorite philosophers, is Jim Rohn, the late, great Jim Rohn. So I would go to them for inspiration. But honestly, it was something that I got excited about, and surrounding myself with people like that and becoming the follower and then going, okay. And then they gave me some things to make sure that they knew that I was okay to be the leader. So in other words, starting to do, presentations or half of a presentation, starting to do this. I remember doing a presentation for the very first time, and I did not think I was even ready at all. But the day that Rob told me, you're ready today because the lady who's supposed to do the presentation isn't here. So you're the only one that's a lady. So you're up. I was like, oh, no. But I do this. When opportunity knocks, I've learned this, you take it. Whether you think you're ready or not, if it knocks for you. So when somebody says to do a presentation or come on a podcast or, whatever it is that you think, oh my gosh, I am not ready for that. I need to do this. And maybe you really feel that way, but it's usually the other person doesn't make you feel that, or they wouldn't have asked you if they weren't sure that you were fully capable of doing it. And so I've learned that early, that you've got to, because this may not knock again. So you could miss that opportunity. And so that was always in my head. So that's how I became a good follower, is to follow the mentors, follow their direction, do what they say they're going to do, or do what they say to do, because they're only going to give me good advice. And then eventually people started to follow me. It was kind of natural. People started to follow me because I became a good leader because I was a good follower. That makes sense.
It does. Just to bridge that gap, you were a follower, but then you were implementing what you were being taught.
Yes.
And that's why people started following you, because they started to see in you the things that you also admired in the other leaders that are in the industry. You step on a lot of stages throughout the United States and Canada and so on. When you step on a stage and you have a group anywhere from 5 people to sometimes thousands, what is it that you would love for that group to catch from you when you're speaking on stages?
Well, I'll tell you that it's not my favorite thing to do still today.
Wow.
My business partner, Melia, still says, well, learn to love it, right? And some people just love it. I get anxiety because here's exactly why. Because I want my message to come from my heart. And I want it to be authentic. But I come from my head a lot because let me put it on paper. What if I forget this? What if I do this, right? And truthfully, that's what gets me, is I just want to make sure that they hear from my heart mostly than anything else, because I think if you speak from there, even if you're not that eloquent, if you're not that sharp or polished, it speaks volumes because you're being you. And I think even more with social media, we see that more people like to follow people who are more authentic and maybe don't have the fanciest backgrounds like we do, right? And stuff like that. But I will say, I want to read this in a minute to you guys, because it's like, I believe in affirmations. I believe in, doing things like that before you get prepared to go up on stage, because you have to make sure that you're bringing your best self. And if you're not bringing your best self, you're bringing somebody else, and that's usually where you mess up, at least for me. If I'm more in my head and not in my heart, then I don't feel like I did a good job,
Read those affirmations and that.
This is something I wrote a while ago. It's like a longer affirmation, but it was what Brian Tracy asked me to do in a book when I was reading it. So it says, I, Kim Melia, make a commitment to myself to work on letting go of what's behind me and start appreciating what's in front of me. I accept and appreciate the past for all the lessons it has to teach me, and allow me, my past experience, to make me a better person, not a bitter person. I will work on disciplining my mind to be present and engaged in the now. And I promise myself to make the best out of every experience life sends my way, either good or bad. I promise myself to become a source of inspiration for myself and those around me, and to spread love and positivity wherever I go. I promise myself to live life fully and to always be honest with myself, even at the risk of offending those around me. I give myself permission to forgive, to love, and to be thankful for every experience life sends my way. I give myself permission to turn my wounds into wisdom and my difficulties into opportunities. I give myself permission to love myself, the people around me, and my life. I give myself permission to make the rest of my life the best of my life. Sincerely, Kim Melia, badass lifestyle maker.
I love it, Kim. And how often do you go back to it to remind yourself to show up?
Well, I usually have this posted right beside my toilet until I moved here recently, to be honest. So I'm going to go put it back there, because I actually just pulled it out. I've been reading it once a week because I've been doing some notes in the same file. But now that I have it out here, again, it just makes me go, okay, this needs to be out every single day. So I read it as many times as I'm in the restroom, as many times as I will read it, because it's just there. Listen, we all have so many negative things around us, and we can put the bubble and try to deflect everything. But sometimes, we need more positive. And that means you need to be that positive for yourself.
And you said some great things about learning to be your best self. And you wrote your own affirmation. How often do you still, even though you have built gigantic teams, you make an incredible income and are an impact to a lot of people within your company and outside your company, how much do you still have to basically fix your own mindset to keep getting back to a better version? Are you all of a sudden perfect? Thank you.
Every day. I've been working on personal development now for 22 years. And I would say it's about consistency, right? So I don't read a book a day, or even sometimes a book a month, but I try to do my best to listen or read 10 pages of a good book a day, and listen to 15 to 20 minutes of an audio a day. Sometimes more, sometimes less. But in general, that would be my 22 years every day, right? Sometimes I read more, sometimes I listen more, but every day I try. I do. I wouldn't say every day. I do something in personal development. And I also, I get my day started without technology. And I've been doing that now for 7 years. So I don't touch my phone unless I'm doing a meditation. But I don't look at my phone and get texts, Facebook, blah, blah, blah. I do my meditation and my gratitude for the first 30 minutes when I wake up. And that's it. And then I can go work out. I might make a few phone calls or whatever. But during my workout is when I do my personal development.
I love that taking us through the day of how a leader starts, but as a human being, how do you apply a lot of these things that you've learned through the personal development to your life? Because just because you've made it financially, does it mean you made it in every area of life?
No, I actually heard this philosophy called the slight edge philosophy, which is my favorite philosophy. It's my favorite because it was easy for me to learn and easy for me to follow, and easy for me to just get on track when I'm off. So the slight edge philosophy is really simple. It says that it's the little things that you do day in and day out that seem to make no difference, but the compounded effect over time is going to lead to your success or your failure. So in other words, and this could be spirituality, it could be family, it could be career, it could be health, it could be wealth, relationships, right? Education. So there is a spoke of a wheel that has all these things in it, and you can't work on everything every day, all day long. That's a lot. But what you can do is be on the slight edge. So like I took my career when I first got started. Okay, I'm on the slight edge in the wrong way. I'm not making good money. Especially when I was starting out with my company, I wasn't really doing the necessary activities to become successful, until they started telling me, well, you've got to talk to 2 new people a day. You've got to attend a training a week. You've got to go to this a week. And once I started doing those mundane things, those little things that seem to make no difference, kind of like when you eat good and you eat good for 2 weeks, you may not lose all the weight yet, but somebody else is eating McDonald's and you're sitting there going, this is not fun. I hate this. I want a Big Mac, or whatever it is, right? But you don't see a difference, but the compounded effect will lead to your success. And so what I understood was it wasn't the fastest person. It wasn't the slowest person. To me, I look at everything now as being consistent. And I don't work out for 2 hours a day anymore. Everything's in moderation. And I don't mean that negatively, because I don't like the word moderate sometimes, but I live my life in moderation. I do a little this, I do a little that, I do a little this, I eat French fries sometimes. Sure I do, but I don't eat them every day, and I make sure that I stay on the slight edge. So if I get off, if I find my attitude's not in check, what I do, Rima, is I simply go, okay, I need to turn on my personal development. I need to get out my affirmations. Obviously, I forgot about reading them every day. So it's immediate. I don't blame anybody. I take personal responsibility, whether it's my attitude, my weight, my looks, I'm looking at my goals are not accomplished. I go, okay, which spoke of the wheel do I need to focus on in that area of my life to get back on the slight edge in the right way? And as soon as I do that, everything else starts to fall in place. But sometimes we get so freaking bored with doing the mundane things, to being consistent. 10 pages of a good book a day sounds great, but it sounds boring. No, you spice up your books. You listen to different people on audios. You know what I mean? Like you go to attend a seminar. So, I mean, you do different things to make sure that you keep yourself, you know, motivated too. But ultimately, it all comes down to you. And if you can just know that, that you're going to be in the slight edge or whatever your philosophy is, in the right way or the wrong way, and you can snap your fingers and get on it in the right way. If I'm eating improperly for a week because it's Thanksgiving weekend, you know, give yourself a break, do whatever you want, but you can get back on the slight edge. So, okay, gain a pound, got to do this now, got to get back on the slight edge the right way. And all that means is I just can't eat all that crap. Not all the time.
What is the most challenging thing that you see as you work with large teams, dealing with people? What is the biggest thing that you go, if I could alter this one thing for people?
Yeah, exactly, it's people. If I could alter people, that would be great, because it's so true. I was like, I love what I do because I work with people, and I hate what I do because I work with people. Because we work on a very high level of relationships. You know what I mean? Like, we're not just co-workers where we see each other. I mean, we know, you know, each other's houses. We usually know the kids. We're usually, you know, been with each other for 5, 10, 15 years. So you see a lot of hardships and different things going on. So I think, but if I had to nail it down, it really is that people don't think that they're worthy. Whether it's worthy of success, and success is different to so many people. $5,000 a month is successful to some people. 50 grand a month is successful to people. So let's not put a monetary value on that. Let's just say they're just not worthy of success. So whatever that is for people. And that means that there's internal work to be done, right? We know that. And that's, I'm not saying that I went for counseling for a year and it cured me, but I went for counseling for a year, which turned me on to personal development, which continued my journey. And if you can just continue along that journey, you know, hopefully there'll be somebody in your life too. There'll be a shining angel that instead of those people that are negative talk to, there'll be somebody else that's on the other side. And so, yeah.
Thank you for saying that, because so many people believe that if they read a certain book, if they take a certain program, if they do a certain something, it's going to fix them. It's like, you don't need fixing. You need to grow as you have done and learn and continue to grow through things as you move forward in your life. And that's what you've done beautifully in every area as you're growing, because you're saying, I pay attention to every area in my life. And if it's not going well, then I pay a little more attention to it. But it's not a fix-all for anything, right? It's
no, everything's temporary, right? So there's always something going to happen in your life, like, oh, thought I overcame this, you know, challenge, and then like in your face. Okay, this one's, and I look at it that way. Like right now with my nonprofit, I mean, I've got another transition going on. I've got people, because it's a volunteer army, similar to what I do as a business, and I keep on, rather than me complaining about it, even though in my head I'm like, oh, I think this is another challenge for you to just become better.
I'm glad you mentioned your nonprofit. Please take us through that journey of even finding this nonprofit and then moving forward. Because once you got to a certain level of success, were you then looking for something more? What was it that drove you to do this?
Well, I've always been, I would say my parents must have instilled it in me. I don't really know how it all happened, like where that came from, but I did in Canada, when I was first starting off in my career at the bank, I worked for the nonprofit, and it was a suicide awareness hotline.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's when the suicide happened in my family, though, strange enough. So I worked for, as my volunteer, I would go after work a couple of days a week, answer phone calls to people who want to commit suicide to try to convince them not to. It's not really the nicest thing. I don't know why I would ever want to do that, but I went through courses and I just did it. And so when it came near and dear to me, as you can imagine, when it actually happened to me, which was completely out of the blue, it was hard to face. So I've always volunteered since I was in my early 20s, probably in my later teens. So when I went to America, when I went to America, I did like Boys and Girls, the Boys and Girls Club, Make-A-Wish Foundation. And so that was about maybe 5 years after with our team, we started to wanting to do stuff because I've always wanted to give back to youth, kids who are in trouble. Whatever that looks like, I just knew that in trouble, and so did my business partners. So it was always like the Make-A-Wish Foundation, Boys and Girls Club, that kind of stuff we did really fun stuff with. But it's hard to donate to the same group and get the money from the same people when you're not really attached, like, because then you just need to keep them intrigued enough to keep on donating, right? So we were looking for a place where we could basically dump all of our money 100% rather than a percentage go. And we could maybe communicate, we could hang out with the kids or whatever. So my business partner, Mike, was actually on an airplane and saw this guy, a stewardess, wearing like a bunch of pulseras, which are bracelets. And he was wearing like, I don't know, 50 of them. And my business partner's like, why are you wearing so many bracelets? He's like, well, I support an orphanage in Guatemala. And he said, tell me more about it. My business partner threw up a check for $1,000 right there on the spot. Didn't know the guy, didn't know, but he knew we were looking for something. And within like a couple weeks later, he got all these pictures of all these kids with new shoes and blah, 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 sent them to me and my business partner, his brother, Steve, and said, hey, I think we might have an orphanage that we could support. And we're like, what are you talking about, right? So he shows us all these pictures, but you know, anybody could take pictures of, you know, kids with shoes and pretend that it's an orphanage, right? So we said, well, we looked at the nonprofit that was helping. We jumped on an airplane literally within 2 weeks after that, me and my business partner, Steve, and a niece and nephew. And we landed in Guatemala, not knowing the language, not knowing anything, not knowing anything about anything. The lady from the nonprofit didn't show up. And we, 10 years ago, that was a boys' orphanage, and it was 75 boys at the time. We met the owners, we stayed for a week, and we came back and we got them 2 new vans, and our whole history with them started to go. And about 2 years later, we said, well, what do you guys really want? Because we kept on going. I would go every 3 to 4 months to Guatemala and bring people with me. And they said, we need a girls' orphanage. We have this land, it's been sitting here. When the girls, you know, get taken away from their parents, so do the boys. Now they get taken away from each other. One goes to the boys' orphanage, one goes to the girls' orphanage. They never see each other. It's so sad. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to at least have them next to each other? So we said, sure. So during one of the biggest crises in America, which was the last mortgage, I was gonna say not boom, but whatever that was, the horrible thing 10 years ago, that's when it was happening. That's when they said, let's build an orphanage. And I was challenged by some people, and they said, well, you're doing at the worst when people don't have any money and they're losing their own homes. And why would they want to help some kids in Guatemala? And that, if you challenge me to like not do something or say something like that, and because I'm Canadian living in America, now I'm going and helping these orphans, right? Now I live in Mexico. It doesn't make any sense. But I said, my heart has no borders, right? It just happens that our heart is landed in Guatemala now. And I'm telling you, when that plane landed in Guatemala, there is something that, I mean, I get the shivers thinking about. For the very first time, I knew I was at home. Never been to the country, don't know the people, culture, didn't know anything about Guatemala 10 years ago. I've been there, I've lived there off and on now, like months at a time when my mom lived there. But I've been there, I don't know, hundreds of times, and I go there every 3 to 4 months. Not during COVID times because of COVID, but I am now going to the orphanage in a week, which is really exciting with my dad. But it all started, so that's how it started. We built a girls' orphanage. We now house 30 girls in an orphanage. We're still beside the boys' orphanage. We renovate the boys. We do whatever we can there. And we not only built the orphanage, it's a princess palace, literally a princess palace. We actually pay for all the administrative on a monthly basis. So we pay for the psychologists, the social workers, the teachers, the electricity and the water. And food and school supplies comes from other nonprofits and other places that help out, which is awesome. So our nonprofit's called Work, Play, Love, and you can find us on Facebook, social media, or workplaylove.org. And it's been a real pleasure. It's been an honor and a responsibility. It's not something where I just get there and, you know, life is, I mean, there's every single day of every single moment, trust me, these kids are in my head. I don't have kids. I was never blessed to have kids. Mother Nature obviously had something else in her heart for me to do. And that's okay, but it's a huge responsibility and I don't take it lightly, but it is something that I feel like I found my purpose. And when you find your purpose, it's such a beautiful thing. It really is just, you know, besides, you know, being able to have an amazing company, to be able to, you know, be successful, but to be able to turn around and have time freedom, to be able to go and do the things that these kids need and want, and that you can give back. And especially because I was a kid that, was abandoned and abused, and same thing with my brothers. I have a connection to the kids like anything else. So it's a very special bond that we have. So thanks for asking.
How did going through that process with the kids and building the orphanage, how has it altered you on the inside in the way that you run your business or your leadership skills?
Sure. I would say that the people comment on just, me coming, being more heartfelt and motherly and compassionate, understanding, all those things that I was, but I think my ego or my myself, just, my own self-worth was in the way, because I didn't see that side of me. I wasn't a mom. I wasn't, and you understand, I just didn't have that in me. Not that I didn't like kids or whatever, but I didn't see that. And as a matter of fact, I remember going to the orphanage and I was like, what the heck do I have in common with 75 friggin' boys? Like, seriously, what's going to happen? I don't even have a language. But here's what happened is they taught me more than I've ever done for them. I believe they taught me that the true language that we all need to be speaking, especially right now, is the language of love. And so because I couldn't speak their language and because they couldn't speak my language, it all had to be eyes, touch, felt, and just, it was beautiful. So I love people coming to the orphanage that know no Spanish, because they're like, oh, I'm so nervous. I'm like, I would rather you not know their language to experience that, because and I guess that's what my leadership is. That's what I don't try to, I convey. It just comes out naturally because that's what happened to me. So I became a softer person. And when I say softer, that doesn't mean I put up with a lot of shit, but, but I'm a softer person because I hear, I feel like if we, this is a quote, I don't know if it's correctly quoted, but if we could know the person's story, I know that there's a quote, like you could walk in somebody's shoes, but if you knew somebody's story, you would love them. If you just stop to hear their story, each person, like, I don't care who they are, like, if you just stop to hear their story, you would respect and love them. And that's what I've got taught there, because, some of these kids don't have the best manners. They don't have the best of, a lot of things. But yet they can teach us so much. The smiles on their faces when they have nothing, when their face is burnt, when they come in there because they were abused by a parent, or they just saw a kid being shot, or their parent being killed, like that, those are issues, and yet they're still smiling and they're playing with a little ball, or they have water, clean water. Like, those are the things where you go, that's real life. Like, that's real life. And if they're truly happy in that, and of course they might have some issues and different things, but they can just be happy with just like nothing. What's wrong with me? Like, it grounds me. So I always, like, for me, going back right now is almost a selfish reason. Of course the kids haven't seen anybody, but I need to be grounded. Like, I need to go back and know, why am I doing this? Where am I at? And I think we all need to go. That's why I meditate. Just to be like, why am I here? Where? And it's a beautiful thing, listen, and it's not something, finding your purpose isn't like, oh, I found my purpose, I'm perfect now, everything's just great. No. It's finding your purpose might require work, might require you to do more work than you ever thought you would, and that's what I've also realized, that's why I say it's a responsibility. So just because you're free doesn't mean that you don't work and you don't, to me, living is giving, giving is living, however you want to say it. And so as much as I can give myself, I think that when you start to do that, and if you've been to an orphanage, built a house, done something for the poor, through your own communities and churches, how you feel afterwards. And it's usually by one person saying thank you to you, or giving you a kiss, or touching you, or looking at you. That you got far more out of it than what you even put into it.
So you truly found real love by finding part of your passion, because you saw in these kids the reality of life and being joyful. You let go of some of your own ego and some of your judgment, and that allowed you to flourish even further.
Yeah.
Really, what I'm hearing from you. And for you to have become successful, you learned to do the mundane things that a lot of people resist. thinking that they're going to go from point A to point Z in one jump, which is not reality for any of us, but it's those little incremental steps that we all learn and grow through to become better versions of ourselves, and then being able to give even bigger. Because truly, what has success given you that you couldn't have even imagined when you first started the journey?
I think it's given me a sense of, well, first of all, just who I am, like knowing that there is a special person inside of me. There is something that is worthy of giving. There's, you were here for a purpose, and it's given me to be adventurous, not to just accept what is. Like, there's more to life than where I lived or the people that I was around, and to continuously just work on that, and listen. I listen to my intuition. My mom's taught me this from when I was a little girl. And so I listen to my intuition and I go with that, and to be able to be successful, to me means to have choices. And I knew that back then. I knew if I did these things and I could have these choices later. So it's not like it was so bad when I started my career or anything, you know what I mean? But because I was going to either work for the bank or work for myself. I mean, we're all going to go through something, but I knew if I made a little bit of more challenging choices at the beginning, when people did make fun of me, people now tell me I'm lucky, but when they made fun of me and said, why are you doing this? You shouldn't be doing this. You should go back to work. You should blah, 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 all those things. I knew if I didn't, because if I listened to them, then I would have bought their lifestyle. And if I listened to the ones that I was looking up to truly, then I could buy their lifestyle. And that's ultimately where it was. But it wasn't a year. It was 2. It's been a journey. It's, I'm still there. I have still mentors that I look at and say, okay. And not that it's more of a big house or a big car or anything. It's just more of life, more of choices, more of, being able to bless others again, being able to say, no, Dad, if you want to go on this vacation, we're going this second. And if you need new teeth, we're getting new teeth. And if you need, there's nothing that I can say no to. And whether that's financial or whether that's time freedom, or blessing people with last things that they want to do on earth or whatnot. I think that if you can think ahead of time and know that the work that you're doing right now, so making that extra phone call, making that extra, last sale or whatever it is that you do in your career, it will make a difference. It will make a difference. But you've got to have goals. It's not like I didn't have goals written up everywhere and I knew what I wanted. But I think that I ultimately, when you become successful to you want other things. There's other things that you start to see around you. And to me, it's all about quality time. It's about spending that time with people. I'm more about experiences than necessarily, a new watch. There's nothing wrong with a new watch, but you know what I'm saying? I'd rather have these experiences, like we're going on a Christmas experience to the beach with my whole family. And I'm doing it because I can, but I'm doing it because time's ticking. I think we all realize that, we're not here forever. And I mean that as a 47-year-old or my daddy's 74. I don't know who's going first. I don't really want to know, but I want to experience everything I can with him of the things that he wants to do, or with my mom with the things that she wants to do, or the kids with what they want, to me, it really is. I think that's what success has probably brought more, is just having true life experiences with the people that you want.
And you touched on a little bit, but you didn't say it. I'm going to say it. You've been able to take care of your mom for a long period of time. You're able to do things for your family that, had you not done the choices and taken the hard steps and really applied yourself, you wouldn't be in a position to take care of anyone besides yourself, possibly. You might not have gotten to the career and the success level, and you wouldn't be able to impact 75 boys and however many more that have gone through there and built an orphanage. But you applying yourself, but really taking care of your family and being present, being alive, being able to do more experiences than things. And that's really what I would love for the audience to catch out of it. Is a leader is not born, a leader is made. Mm-hmm. Life is created, and you have done exactly that. Kim, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Well, I would say maybe through social media is probably the best. You can find me on social media through Work, Play, Love. You can also find me at Kim Melia. I have kimmelia.com, but just find me at Kim Melia on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram and workplaylove.org. You can always find me on the website. And the Melia family is also one of my, it's the Melia family, Melia is my business. So you can always find me there. I'm on like all of, you just put Kim Melia, trust me, you're going to find me. But I do want to say, I do live in Mexico, which is one of the greatest things too. I came here because my mom was having some health challenges and we came here because of that. But Rima, you hit on something like I wrote down this goal to help my parents out 22 years ago. It happened 2 years ago. I've always financially helped them as much as I can whenever they need it, because both of them don't need it at the same time all the time, or my brother too. But I knew there was going to become a time when, first of all, they might get lonely and want to live with me or be close to me. And also, dad needs new teeth. Mom needs to have her daughter near her for umpteen reasons. And so 2 years ago, we came here to visit my mom, realized that she definitely needed me here. And my boyfriend and I, within 2 months, moved from San Diego, drove our car, and we've been here ever since. And then we moved my dad down because it's a better lifestyle for him. He liked it. It was a better lifestyle, alternative medicine here, and different things. So, but I want to be specific in this podcast so everybody knows that it was 22 years ago. I wrote, I want to help. I will help my parents, because I was present moment. I will help my parents financially, emotionally, and be there for them as a daughter, not a nurse. When they're in need of it, because I just knew my brothers probably wouldn't be in that kind of financial stability. So that's also the reason why I did what I was doing. Like there was thought in my madness, even though people thought I was stupid when I was acting mad. When I say mad, I was just ignorance on fire and talking to everybody and doing all those things, right? But I had a clear vision of what I knew that was probably going to happen in the future.
I'm glad you touched on that also about the goals. How much has that impacted in you moving forward, writing down goals or putting goals even? What is your true input on that?
Well, I believe as much as affirmations, you have to have your goals. Now, just know your goals are just goals, right? And those things, you don't, just because you fail at one doesn't mean you can't put it off another month. You're not really putting it off. It's just a journey, right? We don't know exactly what everything life is. So I probably didn't hit most of my goals in my life. At the time I said I wanted the goal, but maybe 5 years later, 10 years later, 2 months later. Some of my goals I didn't hit for 10 years. Some of my goals I hit within 2 months. So I just think that, and I've got whiteboards here. You can't really see them, but there they are. Whiteboards full of goals, right? Because I can erase them, I can change them, I can do this. So I think goals are extremely important, even if it's not just financially, like it's a goal for you. You want to maintain a certain health. You want to maintain a certain weight. You want to maintain great relationships. Like goals don't have to be financial. Goals are just, again, it's that slight edge. It's the spoke of the wheel. What are your spirituality? What's your wealth? What's your relationships? What's your exercise goals? So I just think it's constant. It's always in there. If you don't have any goals, then where the heck are you going? You're just like, whatever life throws at me. And that's what I don't want. I don't want life to throw something at me and I'm not ready for it. Right? If I'm not ready for it, I'll go through it and stuff, but at least I have something to look forward to. And I think, even speaking of my dad, he's 74 years old. I love him to death, of course. But what I've seen, and I've also read this and know this, that if an elderly person, I hate to say my dad's elderly, but an elderly person doesn't have something, or even us, right? But something to look forward to, whether it's a wedding, a birthday, something special, like my dad's going to Guatemala with me. Like I can tell he's already feeling better and he's making sure he's eating better. He's doing things because he doesn't want to miss out. And so I would always say that's what a goal is good for too, is like you always are having something to look forward to, or to attain, or to get, or to receive. And truly that's what life's all about, is like, what can I have? But think abundantly. Like we don't want to be scarcity. We don't think scared, like abundantly. What more can we receive?
Kim, is there anything that you'd like to share with the audience that I may not have asked you, so that we don't get off this podcast and go, oh, I wish we had asked that? Is there anything else you want to share with the listeners?
I don't think so. You're a really good interviewer. I don't think there was, I don't know. No, I feel like I've said everything I really need to say. And I'm just blessed that, people would listen. And I hope that, something that I say intrigues or gets you to be motivated enough to do something that maybe you hadn't done before, or do something better, or create something in your life because you truly deserve it. And just remember that nothing has to equal your future, good or bad past. Just because somebody had a really good past doesn't mean they're going to have a good future, vice versa. So just don't judge yourself on other people and enjoy your journey, because I've enjoyed it. Like, I love when I first got started in my career. It was hard, and there was a lot of hardships and ups and downs and crying moments and all that kind of stuff. But I look back now, man, I had fun. So be present. Be present in every moment that you can, because we don't know when that moment's going to go. So even if it is sucky and you don't want to do it right now or something, just think to yourself, man, we're only passing through it. I'm only going through it. So I might as well enjoy it, enjoy the moment while it comes, and enjoy your career times when it's a little bit more challenging, because it's only going to make you a better person. I know it kind of sounds cheesy, but the truth is, if you look at it that way, it's really going to turn out that way for you.
I have one last question for you. What would you love to see happen with the orphanage?
Well, I believe what I'd love to see happening is starting to happen. But so there's a girls' school that we were part of helping, and there's a trade school just coming. And that's really spectacular, because a lot of the kids age out and they might end up in the same environment, which means they're probably going to end up in the same situation coming out of an orphanage when they've been there 10 years. So the trade school is something another nonprofit's doing that I'm hoping that, not hoping, but we will contribute to. So I want us to be a big part in that, and to make sure that the kids have somewhere where they can get out of our orphanage or stay in our orphanage and really feel like they changed their legacy. Because that's the hard part, is we need to instill in them the same thing that was instilled in me, that you are worthy, that you can change your legacy. You don't have to be like your past. You are smart. I mean, sometimes, you guys, these kids don't come to the orphanage until they're 10 years old and they haven't been to school. So they're in grade 1. Like, imagine going to kindergarten grade 1 when you're 10 years old. Like, how much of a loser do you feel like, right? So when they age out at 17, 18, well, they're only in grade 5. They have to have a grade 9 education. So for us to be able to instill the same things of belief and all that, trust me, there'll be some personal development. Maybe that's really where I'm supposed to go with them speaking out loud here, right? Is that I could help with that, because I think that that's its own course, and that's its own little, it's not a trade, but it's a skill, and it's something that people need to know, that it's, because there's too much, when there's so much damage done here as a child, we've got to help reverse that. And so the biggest thing for the orphanage, I would say, first of all, I'd love to build more orphanages, but I'd like for this one to really excel, to see these kids leave the orphanage having a career and confidence, that when they go out into the Guatemala life again, that they know that they're different. They're not, they don't have to be their environment that they came from. And that's the biggest thing.
Kim, thank you so much. I have thoroughly enjoyed this podcast and catching up with you. I so appreciate you and everything you do within the organization and outside of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Love you too. And it's just great to be with you and hang with you too. And so congratulations on your own podcast. It's exciting.
Thank you so much. And to our listeners, please remember, your attitude determines your altitude in life. If you want life to begin to alter and change for you, begin with your attitude, and just see how you begin applying yourself will change your life. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next episode. Have a great one.